Wonderful to have everyone with us. For the Christian Coalition Candidates Forum, tonight's forum will be featuring candidates for County Commissioner, and we're excited that 4 of the 5 commissioners could be with us. Before we go any further, may we open with a word of prayer. Lord God, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for the opportunity that we could host the Candidates Forum. We thank you for this great country and the great freedoms and liberty that you've given to us to conduct such an event as this, Lord. I pray that you would bless our evening. I pray that each of the candidates would be able to clearly articulate their positions, and that there would be clarity that would come to those that listen. Lord, you know that it's our intent to simply better inform the voter. And God, we pray that all that is done would be honoring to you. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. We pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Once again, thank you for attending tonight's event. My name is Patrick Robinson. I'm chairman of Christian Coalition here in Clinton County. Christian Coalition is a nonpartisan group that simply tries to better inform the candidates. And this forum tonight will give you, the audience, and those of the community via the members of the press that are here, a better opportunity to know these gentlemen and their positions. And we come definitely from a Christian worldview, a conservative Christian worldview. How many got a survey that we passed out this evening? Anyone that does not have a survey, if you would just raise your hand. I believe we still have a number of those. We'd be glad to pass that out. The Christian Coalition seeks to represent pro-family point of view, to speak out in the public arena and the media, to train leaders for effective social and political action, inform pro-family voters about timely issues and legislation, and to protest anti-Christian bigotry and defend the rights of people of faith. We believe that people of faith, and us particularly in Christian values, but for that matter, any people of faith, have the right to speak out publicly about their beliefs, not simply privately. We believe that the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution protects public freedom of speech, public freedom of press, public right to assemble, and public expression of religion. And so this is one of those expressions of our Christian values, and we seek to influence every area of life as a Christian believer. This is just one of those areas of life that we believe God has a lot to say, and His principles have a lot of practical wisdom that can be implemented into civil government. We believe that God is the author of civil government, not man, and therefore we believe that God would necessarily have wisdom to be applied in this area as well. And so there's a few things there you can read about us, read about history that might amaze you, that personally I never read in my public history text, but Founding Fathers they were not afraid of religious liberty. They were certainly afraid of religious tyranny, and therefore they did not want to set up a national church. But in no way, shape, or form did the original Founding Fathers intend that we have freedom from religion, that we somehow have a secular state government that can have no influence whatsoever from any people of faith. That is not the intent of the First Amendment. And you'll even see some of the quotes from the House Judiciary Committee and what they had to say about it in the halls of Congress in 1854. We are delighted to have the candidates here for the forum. Let me just take a few minutes and explain how the forum will operate, and then we'll get right into it. Each of the 4 candidates that are present will be given 3 minutes apiece for opening remarks. After that time, we will open the floor to questions and answers. I believe we have the wireless mic. Where's my son Seth? Stand up, Seth. Okay. My son Seth will be floating about with that wireless mic, and that will allow members of the audience to participate in the forum tonight. We should have quite an extended period of time that will be devoted to questions from the audience. Each one of the candidates will then be given 1 minute each to answer that question from the audience, and we will rotate who takes the question next, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, etc., and try to mix that up a little bit. At the end of the questions and answers period, there will be 2-minute closing remarks from each of the candidates, and we will simply, gentlemen, go reverse order from the card that you drew here before the forum. This is Hope Mitchell. She has a yellow sign and a red sign, and she's going to be our timekeeper tonight. And I'll as we go along, I'll go over the instructions again, but at the 3-minute opening remarks, when you have 1 minute to go, the yellow sign will go up. When the red sign is up, we ask that you just finish your sentence and then stop at that point. Okay, I think we're ready. I would like to introduce the candidates for Clinton County Commissioner. All gentlemen were invited to the forum. Unfortunately, Mr. Adam Coleman had a conflict in his schedule and wrote to me that he would not be able to attend. So next in order, let's give a warm round of applause to Joel Long. The candidates can come up to the stage at this time as I introduce them. Mr. Joel Long is with the Democratic Party. Mr. Pete Smeltz. Mr. Jeff Snyder, Republican. And Mr. Richard Morris, Independent. Okay, at this time, we're going to have opening remarks for 3 minutes. And first up is Mr. Jeff Snyder.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here, and thanks for the opportunity. Seem to be lucky with drawing first to speak tonight, first on the ballot, so I hope that's something that continues with me. I spent a lifetime of dedicating my time to being a volunteer. I was on the SPCA board for 10 years, a charter member of the Wards Lions Club, lifetime member of the Wards Volunteer Fire Company, 20-year Keystone Central School Board member. During those 20 years, I've served as president, and I'm currently the vice president. I've been the chairman of the Finance Committee for 18 years, $64 million budget. Looked at my history over the last 11 years, being on the school board, get hit a lot about taxes. 11 years I voted to raise taxes, 3 years, they were all around 2%. This past year, worked hard for no tax increase, that didn't happen, that's how I voted. I'm very much interested in becoming a Clinton County Commissioner. It's my opinion that the way the county is currently being run, it's reactive. With the gas industry and the opportunities coming, we've got to be proactive. We've got to be out there securing these jobs. Just talking to someone in the audience tonight, his wife's looking for a job. It's hard to find a job. We've got to be proactive, bring these jobs into this area, get local people employed, keep you working. That's what makes the world go round. I do want to mention that I'm a member of the St. Luke's United Methodist Church. My wife and I and children have been members there for a long time. I want to bring ethics and accountability back to the Commissioner's office. I know I don't want to steal anything from Pete. Pete and I have come out from the very beginning saying that we're going to be full-time commissioners. We're going to be there the hours that the courthouse is open. I personally am going to have a logbook there. If I need to go to Harrisburg or Williamsport or someplace for a meeting, you're going to know where I'm at. You come in to see me and I'm not there, you put your name, your phone number down, and when I get back, I will get a hold of you. I will be accountable to you 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I'm looking to serve you, and I hope I get that opportunity. Thank you very much.
Okay, next up, Mr. Richard Morris of the Independent Party.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me to this ceremony. I'm not originally from around here. I got my master's degree from the University of Cambridge in England in classical languages and Aristotle's ethical philosophy, which is a great boon. I did a degree in educational psychology at the University of Oxford and worked for 16 years as personnel executive for the Ford Motor Company in Europe. I bought my first meal at the Texas Lunch in August of 1984, and 7 years later relocated here with my then wife and first of our 2 daughters. And I've come scratched a living as a real estate salesperson since then. You may remember that some 6 years ago there was the most almighty ruckus when the county's taxes were raised. It was a reaction that seemed to me to be overblown and unfair, and it stimulated an interest in me in how county government does run and should run. You will also recall that following on from that, there was a 2-year period when the county wrestled with the notion of maybe going to a home rule charter. And I followed fairly closely that line of thought. I didn't come to the same conclusion the study commission did, but I think all of us in that process, that 2-year process, learned an awful lot about how county government should operate. At the end of this year, the Board of Commissioners will experience a loss on the board. Commissioner Bossett will retire, and he will take with him 8 years of very valuable knowledge and experience, and that will be a tough act to follow. I think in the 6 years that I have sat many times the other side of the table from Tom, I think I have served an apprenticeship that should help the county make good that deficiency in experience. We thought at the time of the study it would take 2 years for a new commissioner to become effective. I think I can cut down on that time scale. Labels are a good way of discovering what's in a bottle of wine. They're a useless way of discovering what's in somebody's heart and mind. I therefore will resist any attempt to be described as conservative, liberal, Christian, Jew, Democrat, Republican, right or left. I simply will bring to you the best I can of the intelligence and the knowledge that I can bring to serve you. Thank you.
Next is Mr. Pete Smeltz, Republican.
Thank you, Patrick, and thanks to all of you for coming out this evening to hear the commissioner candidates. I did not realize when I left my state employment a few years ago that I would embark on this adventure of becoming a county commissioner. I realized, though, that 35 years of experience that I have in state government was actually training, very good training, excellent training, that led me to be developed and prepared for the job that's coming forth as a county commissioner in Clinton County. We have some great challenges before us, and I agree with something that was said earlier in that we need to be better planners and more proactive in looking at what's going on. I like to use the word anticipation, anticipating what's coming ahead of us as opposed to taking care of business on a day-to-day basis. You don't always make the best decisions when you're not a good planner and when you don't anticipate. I came to Clinton County in 1984, is when I moved here from Harrisburg. I worked for the State Department of Transportation. Eventually, I met up with my dear wife, Deb, who I met actually on a date to the Millhall Church of Christ. Was our first date. I wanted to go on a picnic, and she invited me to church instead. And that turned out to be a life-changing decision when I went to that church that day with her. She became my wife, and we have 2 great children, Sarah and a senior in Central Mountain High School, and a son, Robbie, at the Millersville University. But when I became the manager of Clinton County PennDOT, I was charged with responsibility of the highway system in this county, which enabled me to work with every single municipality in this county, enabled me to have the opportunity to lead 85 employees and manage a budget of over $10 million. During that course, I was able to work with many state agencies. That is something you really need to be able to do as a county commissioner. I work with state police, I work with the county commissioners, I work with all the municipalities in various projects. So I'm totally prepared, well prepared for this, to perform this duty. And then when I was seeking a new career path, it was actually some people in the community who approached me and said, look at it, consider taking what you know and all your skills which you have and applying them to this job. So during the years I was involved in the Football Boosters Club at Central Mountain. I was the president of the Sugar Valley Lions Club. I'm a member of the Lock Haven Kiwanis. I'm an elder in my church in Mill Hall. And these are a couple of things that I've been able to do, as well as take care of my job duties and my family. And thank you very much. I'm looking forward to this evening.
Okay, our 4th candidate candidate here is Mr. Joel Long of the Democratic Party.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick, for having me here tonight. I'm honored that this is my fourth time to be on this stage, two as a candidate, one representing someone else for an election, and once actually here at the service where we talked about how people within the Christian community can get more involved and help with kids, because I've been very involved over my tenure with kids in Little League and football and basketball, keeping them involved in healthy things. I've served now for, this is my 14th year. I was 10 years as a Lothian City Councilman and ran for commissioner twice. My second time was successful for the last 4 years. And I think you're going to hear us reference Mr. Bossert a lot tonight, because the most popular politician I think you'll ever find is one who's leading office on his own without being forced out. So we'll all be looking to point to him on his experience and the things that we've learned from him over the years. I think that he could tell you that this job is more than full-time. This job is a commitment. It's a commitment of time that sometimes you don't even think you have. The days of going to the grocery store for a 15-minute pickup are done, because somebody's always going to have a question for you on what's going on in the county. And one of the things you learn very quickly is that there's no way that you, as one commissioner, can handle everything there is that the county deals with. That's why there's three of us. We divide up those responsibilities. We expect each other to keep in contact on the things that we have the lead on. And I look forward to working with whoever gets elected to make this county a better place, as I think we have done for the last 4 years. This Board of Commissioners has dealt with some of the worst economic times in our country's history. And we've been able to do that and keep this county in a sound financial place. And we've been proactive in lots of areas. And I'll be happy to tell you more about that as this night goes on. Thank you again for having me here.
Okay, I'm showing it's about 7:25, and so probably for about the next hour, maybe a little beyond that, we're going to open the floor up to questions from the audience. This mic is getting kind of hot. My son Seth is going to have a wireless microphone. And tonight's forum is for the candidates for commissioner only at this point. Yes. Any questions, gentlemen? Okay. At this time, we're going to open it up. If you have a question, please just raise your hand and. Why don't we just start first, second, third, fourth, first, second, third, fourth, second, and I'll try to keep that. Okay, this gentleman back here.
Hello. First of all, before I ask my question, I do have the utmost respect for elected officials. My family's been involved in politics, and I've been an active fan. And I don't mean that this question would sound harsh, but I am interested in your opinion. I was at the Economic Partnership a few weeks ago, and I happened to be sitting waiting for a meeting, and I read some of their publications, and I got my eyes open. I have a question, but I want to set the question up first. In Clinton County, government is by far the largest employer, not even close. And second that shocked me is government pays the highest wages in the county, not even close. And on top of that, government pensions are the highest. that wasn't in the economic partnership publication, but from my experience, I know that to be true. And my circle of friends, or the people I talk to are concerned about this. I would like to know, do you think government should keep growing? And do you think they can sustain the salaries and the pensions that are being paid?
Mr. Hauser, you're talking about state government?
I'm talking about all government. I can go in further to specify what I'm talking about, but you take the county, the school district, the university, all wages, whether it's county or university, university's probably the highest, school district probably second, county third. But the wages, you take the wages of like positions, you're number one. And I just wonder what you think that can be sustained, and do you think the defined benefit plans that are being paying out by government can be sustained? I'd like to know your thoughts.
I can tell you, with Keystone Central School Districts, there's 501 school districts in the state of Pennsylvania. Keystone Central has been working with the bargaining unions as their contracts come up to have the employees pay more towards their health care. As far as government, and even Keystone Central, we have been shrinking our numbers, but obviously we have to shrink our numbers of our staff members because our student enrollment numbers are shrinking. But as far as government at large, we have way too many people involved in government, too many committees, too many people supporting them, and there's got to be a reduction in the number of employees in all governments as far as I'm concerned. As far as the county, don't know enough about that yet, Mr. Hauser, to tell you. Something certainly that if I'm in office we're going to take a look at. But as far as state government particularly, absolutely we have to shrink it. Healthcare is just increasing and increasing, and unfortunately more of the responsibility for the, where's health? Oh, right here, I'm up, thank you. Looking over there. Sorry, I was looking right past it.
Don, I hope you also have respect for people who aspire to be elected officers. Let me start with one very simple philosophical point. I believe passionately that government has an important and useful role to play in people's lives. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be standing here. And I don't really see an awful lot of point in aspiring to work in a job that you believe is irrelevant and wasteful. I think it was Ronald Reagan who said that the government does not have the best brains. If it did, industry would buy them. And I also believe that if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. We need the best brains that we can get in government. We need to pay them competitively. We also need, having done that, to extract the maximum contribution that we can from those employees. Because philosophically, I believe they're there to serve a purpose that is of benefit to the community. Thank you.
As I think I read some similar statistics, Don, as you read, and considering the fact that I think 80% of our land in Clinton County is publicly owned by the government, state forests, and we have the Lockheed University, which happens to be one of our major employers, plus the school district and the other state agencies, Bureau of Forestry, is one of the reasons why that be the case in Clinton County. So that's causing that disparity that we have such a large number of government employees. Our objective has to be to fill the rest of the county, and it's one of my objectives as a commissioner, and to find more private enterprise that matches those types of wages. For example, as we're getting more from the gas industry, you've noticed the gas industry is sort of bringing up the median wages levels a little bit. And now to answer your last question was, I believe it's going to be extremely difficult for the government to sustain the type of pensions plans that they have sustained in the past, and those things will have to be negotiated to be done in a different manner. The taxpayers cannot afford those type of pension plans in the future.
Well, since I'm one of the few up here that's currently serving in county government, well, actually the only one serving in county government, the fact of the matter is that those pensions are dictated to us by law, and we have to follow what the law says. I think that we've done the best job possible under the law to keep that stable and at minimal cost to the taxpayer. Commissioner Bosser could attest to that. Do I think that the system can survive long term? It's going to be tough to continue to do that. The fact of the matter, I think Richard spoke to it, is that, you know, do you want us to have only the cast-offs out there working for government and working for you, or do you want good people working for you? I do think that for a time that county positions were paid a little more. When we first started back in the 60s, 70s, I didn't first start then, but county positions were not paid very well. And some adjustments needed to be made, and those adjustments have been made, but we've tried to curb them now so that we feel they've reached where the market is at. But you can't do that all at once with union contracts and everything else you deal with. So to answer your question, no, I don't think we can continue to inflate, but we have to get under control. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions from the audience?
Yes, I'm interested in the statement from maybe each, at least one or two people in the stand, regarding 24/7, that you're available 24 hours, 7 days a week. I don't think that's reasonable for us, the citizens, to expect that of you, nor is it reasonable for you to offer that. What I'm looking for, and hopefully everybody's looking for, is candidates that have a good family life. 24/7 is totally availability to the citizens. I'm concerned that you save some time for your family. Therefore, we will have candidates that are good fathers, taking the time to be so, a good husband, good grandfather, whatever. If you're not good at those things, you're not going to be a good candidate for the position you're filling. And it's going to be difficult for you to do that, as it's been explained. You don't have 15 minutes in the grocery store anymore. But you have secretaries and other people in the office staff that can take the questions, and the citizens can expect some sort of arrangement so you can be good fathers, and et cetera, as well as a good candidate.
Okay. So your question is how can you sustain 24/7?
My challenge is to put yourself as a family man first, and then a candidate. And if you can't do that, then I'm going to be a good candidate.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm probably not the best person to lecture you on how to maintain a successful marriage, but I think I can lecture you, if I had the time, on how to raise two excellent daughters, two daughters who are devoted to their father and to these fathers' aspirations. And I have a former wife who is also, I think, devoted to supporting me in those aspirations. You're absolutely right that you cannot pretend to be 24/7 a county commissioner, nor can you expect to do the job from 9 to 5 and at 5:05 get in your car and drive home. It's probably a very difficult balancing act. When you put yourself in public service, you inevitably put yourself at the disposal of the people who have problems and difficulties and they want a solution to those. I think I can claim to be able to balance that with perhaps not the traditional family, but with a former wife and two daughters, I think, who would be very, very pleased to be able to support me in what I want to do.
24/7 is what I did for all my career with management at PennDOT. The operations we ran required 24/7. As you know, we dealt with snow removal and other things, so I'm used to that. That's a great balance. That's a great question. It's a tough balancing act, trust me. What helps is having a good wife who can help you with sharing in those duties of raising a family, which I think is very critical. And I've always had that, which enabled me to be a good father to my son and my daughter while doing the other parts of my job. The other part of that is there are 3 commissioners, and I'm sure that this is a good time to mention that I'm very much looking forward to working as a team. And so that we are able, the 3 of us, and one of the other candidates alluded to it, that you do have to divide the duties. But being able to address people's questions at the grocery store, at the restaurant, is something I'm used to. And but again, your wife's a partner in that effort. And yes, your kids do and your family do come first. You do take care of those while you're also taking care of your job. It can be done.
As I mentioned before, this job is a commitment, and you do rely on your fellow commissioners. You have to work as a team, as Pete said. I've done that for the last 4 years in this job. I'm able to balance it. I've coached my children in baseball and in basketball and football. You rely on your colleagues to fill in for you so that you can take that time. When I say I'm available 24/7, that means that you can contact me. Doesn't mean that I'm going to be expected to be the one to always take care of it. We rely on help from staff. We rely on help from our fellow commissioners. I still expect to be able to take a family vacation and spend time with my children. So I would expect that the other commissioners would do so as well.
That's what I'm trying to get across when I say 24/7 is I've owned my own business for 33 years. There's mornings I've had to be there at 4 o'clock in the morning. There's nights I've been there at 2 o'clock in the morning. What I'm saying is that I am committed to be available, to be accountable to the citizens of this county whenever I'm needed. I'm used to doing that. My wife and children have supported me 20 years on the school board. There's a lot of nights that I come home at 5 o'clock, get a quick shower. She has a sandwich ready at the door. I go to a meeting at 6. The longest that we had a school board meeting was 2:30 in the morning. What I'm saying is, Scott, I want to do the best job I can, and the amount of time that it's going to take working with 2 other commissioners and the staff to provide the best services to county residents that they absolutely deserve from an elected official. Thank you.
Marcella Shale. First part is, how would you work with legislators, or would you work with legislators in Harrisburg to help get the citizens of this county the resources they need to deal with the impacts for the drilling activity? And the second part of the question is, probably the question is, I'm asking for one specific thing that you would do here locally within your power to help citizens that have to deal with the impacts of gas drilling.
2 minutes. 2 minutes. Oh, 2 minutes. All right. Don't tempt me. I'll let 3. Absolutely, you have to work with your legislators to resolve the Marcellus gas. There's no question about it, Tim. Most of the issues, in my opinion, are actually state issues, and they'll be addressed through the state legislature, through the governor at the state level. So I'm looking forward to working with Representative Hanna as a county commissioner to do that. Those issues, of course, involve the traffic. They involve protecting our water, protecting our environment. In Clinton County, tourism is important to us. We need to protect the forest that we've already alluded to. It consumes so much of what we are in Clinton County. For example, in Pennsylvania, one area that we could address, the state pays the counties a fee of $1.20 per acre for state forest land, what they call in payment in lieu of taxes. That state forest land, which has been preserved for recreation, is now being used to make money by having gas drilling. I'd like to propose to Representative Hanna, and I've been thinking about contacting him on this, to have that fee increased, especially in the northern tier Potter, Lycoming, Clinton, and Sonoma County, where the forest that was preserved, which we received no tax revenue off of because it's state-owned land, that payment they make in lieu of taxes of $1.20 an acre could be increased to $5. That would also go to school districts and to local municipalities by law. And I actually think the last time that rate was increased, Mr. Representative Hannon was involved in that decision a few years back. There's one area that we could address. The other area is that whatever tax impact fee or tax they come up with, that we get the help we need there to address the safety issues that the state police are dealing with, that DEP has to deal with in enforcing the drilling regulations. So when they pass that impact fee, make sure those things are covered. And there's more to that, but my time's up. Thank you.
First part of your question, working with the state legislature to handle a tax or fee. We've been trying to do that since the inception of this. As far as being proactive on this particular issue, there's no way we could be proactive at the time because this was not even a topic that was discussed 4 years ago when we were running for this office. It just jumped on us. We've been trying to catch up to it and do what we need to do. And one of those things is pushing for either a severance tax or an impact fee or what have you. We want to make sure we're doing the best for the citizens of the county. Getting the state to give you money is a hard thing to do, especially when all of us are telling them, live within your means, don't spend more money. Well, giving us money is spending money to them. It's coming out of their budget to hand it to us. So it's tough, but we continue to work towards that. Things that I've been doing as far as looking out for our citizens here when it comes down to Marcellus Shale. Representative Hannon and I have been working with MX Wireless and KCNet to bring some electronic monitoring of the wells, real-time data going to DEP so that they can see it then, and it's much quicker for them to react. We all know that with the budget cuts and so on, that there haven't been as many feet on the ground, so to speak. But if they have that access, that helps protect us as far as environmental issues that may occur. We are running into some hurdles with that, but we continue to work towards that and the betterment of our county as well. Thanks.
Some time ago, I spoke to Mike Anna about an idea I had to see if he would pursue it. He chose not to, but my idea was that when the state leased the gas rights on public lands, that 10% of it would stay locally. My idea was 5% of it would go to the school district, earmarked for tax reduction, 2.5 to county, and 2.5 to whatever municipality that the well was located for helping them with their roads and things. And the big thing that I asked him to support was 10% of their royalties. Most landowners got 15% royalties. The state got 18%. So I figured they weren't really losing anything from what the average person lost. The royalties were the money is. Mike at that time was looking at the severance tax, which at that time and still to now I'm not in favor of because I don't know how much of it's going to stay locally. The other thing that I've done is I have met with Jay Alexander over at the Clinton County Solid Waste Authority. He deals with a lot of people over there in the gas industry. He has made a commitment to me that if I become a commissioner, I'm going to get introductions to these people. I'm going to know who is in here with A&A trucking in this area. I'm going to know that individual. I'm going to know the top people in Anadarko. When there's a problem, I'm going to go to them and communicate to the public what's going on and if it's a problem, how we're going to resolve that. I have made contacts with the people in Lycoming County. If I become a commissioner, those doors are going to open for me. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. They are so far ahead of us. I'm going to go to their meetings. What's working for them, I'm going to bring it back here. We have to stay on top of this. There are some of the things that I have done and I will continue to pursue. But if there's any type of impact fee for me to support it, the money's got to come here where the problems are. Because as soon as these impact fees, or whatever you want to call them, if they're imposed, then what these companies are doing now as far as putting money into roads, that's going to stop. So let's make sure we don't cut our nose off to spite our face. Thank you.
Tim, I'm going to try and short-circuit your question a little bit. I have, in the past, written 3 papers on how you tax Marcellus shale. They're available at my office at 105 East Main Street if you'd like a copy. I think we have this thing all the wrong way around. Somehow we got into the mindset that the only contribution we needed out of the gas companies was compensation for the mess that they made. And the nice way of describing that is an impact fee. There is no extractive industry, there's never been an extractive industry in this state that did not make a mess. That does not seem to me to be the point. The point is that we are sitting over a hugely, hugely rich resource. And if you tax it with a severance tax, you draw some part of that resource back to the benefit of the people who live here. The county is just in the process of doing its budget. I don't think we have budgeted a single dollar for next year, specifically as an impact on Marcellus shale. In some ways, that's an illusory kind of way of just tithing the industry. I don't want to tithe it. I want to tax it fairly based on the wealth that it creates. Because the impact, Tim, as you probably know, is not on county government. The impact is on the people whose windows rattle every 5 minutes up the Coudersport Pike. There is no direct way to compensate that. If you can pull in severance tax and therefore hopefully reduce the burden of taxation on everybody else, your windows are still going to rattle, but at least you're going to feel better about it because you're not paying so much in tax. It's a huge resource. I think we are wasting the way we develop it and the way in which we try and cull some part of that rich resource for the benefit of our citizens. On the papers there at East Main Street.
Kind of nice to hear about taxes again for a change. I think everybody in this room needs a few more. Build on themselves from the school district, the county, city, as you can see what's coming on the city people. And you talk about being proactive. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this county and the social problems that exist here and how we can create some kind of an idea how we can do away with some of that. And couldn't it be through jobs? You talk about Marcellus shale. Eliminate the environmental because that's being taken care of by DEP. Eliminate that. And by the way, they get a lot of money to do that through our straight state budget. Help us as commissioners, and you know you can do this, to create some different ideas. Let's take this gas resource that we have, okay, and create some good things out of it, like what they are doing in Williamsport. Gas available for automobiles, cars, the buses at the school district, which could cut our costs, and create some jobs that will take people off the street where they don't have to go in the court system and fight over losing their kids or fighting over social items. This is what we've got to do in this county. Taxes, all we want to do with taxes anywhere that I've seen over a lot of years is spend it. Spend the money. That's what they're trying to do at the state level. And they want that money. But you know, we're getting sales tax, we're getting income tax, we're getting a tremendous amount of money out of the Marcellus shale. I just want your comments on whether you as commissioners would be proactive in the ideas that I just put across to you.
Well, first of all, I think everybody here would agree we want more jobs, we want better paying jobs. That doesn't automatically fix social problems. Social problems are much deeper than that. Social problems have to do with how we raise our children, what we teach them growing up, what's right and wrong. We can talk about taxes. Nobody ever wants to raise taxes. If you asked any candidate running for office, they're not going to stand here and say, I want to raise your taxes. Because that's a sure way of not getting elected. Right? Am Am I right about that? Nobody wants to say that. But sometimes those things are a reality. It's a matter of managing what you have responsibly. If you manage what you have responsibly, you're doing the public the best favor you can do them. Okay? As far as ideas how to use this, I like your ideas, Dan. I know I respect you. Those types of things the school district would have to decide with buses, what have you. The county doesn't have control over the school buses. As far as a system here for cars, I don't think we have control over that either. I mean, we can get out on the soapbox and yell about it and try to help people to see it and come here and bring it, but I don't think the types of things you're talking about, to me, if the county's going to try to take it on, expands county government. Do we want to do that? Social problems have more to do with other issues than just jobs. Thank you.
Danny, thanks for your question. I guess it's getting to be the time where I'm going to have to start laying all my cards out on the table, I guess. I have the names of the people who are behind. Instead of gas stations, there are going to be propane stations sooner or later. Natural gas stations, I should say. I have the names of those individuals who are working with that now. That's one of the reasons I have such an interest, and I have those doors available to open in Lycoming County, because I truly believe that they're ahead of us, and we need to work with them to bring those things here. There are some negative things with the industry here. It was mentioned about windows rattling and stuff. Well, yeah, it's here. Several months ago, I asked a question at a town meeting. How much of this was going to be shipped across the pond, and the Anadarko representatives there that evening put their heads together and said, we can't answer that. A week later, I read in the paper where quite a percentage of it going over. Foreign countries are buying the gas company stocks up. So I have a great concern that here we are putting up with all of the negative things dealing with this. And we've got to start looking at positives. We've got to work with the government to make sure if this is going to be shipped across the ponds, they put a nice tax on that to ship it out of here, that it benefits us. We've got to look at all the positive things that are coming with this and be ready to institute it. So again, it helps us in this area. And I'm absolutely thinking that we are going to have automobiles that are going to be fueled with natural gas. And we need to work on that. Wouldn't it be wonderful to have a company, an industry, in Clinton County that could do that? And we have to work with the economic partnership and the gas companies themselves, and again, Lycoming County, to make that happen. And I'm certainly in favor of bringing as much positive from this as we can gain in this area.
I think the Governor's proposals on an impact fee, which I'm not entirely in favour of, also had some additional proposals about green corridors and ways in which we could capitalise on making the natural gas available in a range of different economic opportunities. Governments don't create jobs. Governments create the circumstances that make it favourable for the people who need the work done to do it. And I think one of the greatest contributions that county commissioners can make to that is to advocate on behalf of their county. They are the county's ambassadors. They are the people who are supposed to be taking intelligent interest in what business opportunities are available. In making sure that we attract the people with the right investment and the right ideas to make those things happen. You know, Dan, probably a lot of people know, that in the western end of the county we have a group of people who are struggling relatively. We need to find ways of attracting investment into the western end of the county, which may not necessarily be manufacturing investment, but we have to look at what opportunities are available, and we have to attract people in who would be interested in investing in whatever way in that end of the county. And it's our responsibility as commissioners to advocate for the county and to look for opportunities to attract people in to capitalise on what opportunities are available.
This product which we're producing, this natural gas, it would behoove us as county commissioners, or as working together with private enterprise mostly, to not market that product. And I agree with that. I agree that anything county commissioners can do to attract business into our county, working through the economic partnership perhaps, we can have businesses that are inclined to use gas, natural gas. Extending the infrastructure of gas lines. I know they don't sell a lot of gas that way. If you have natural gas, I hope you like it. I think it's a good source to use for even your homes and your industries. And so there's no question about it. We need to do that. And we need to create a business climate that people want to come to our county and be those that spin off businesses or businesses that utilize the gas, natural gas. When we were talking taxes earlier, I'm not in any way in favor of creating taxes on natural gas that are not required to compensate for the impact that the natural gas drilling is having on the community. There's no question that we need additional law enforcement in the area of the trucking industry, that we need additional feet on the ground, DEP. Dan, you mentioned DEP's taking care of that, but I know they need to pay those people to do that. And that's the only extent to which I support taxing natural gas, not just because we can give it to that black hole in Harrisburg so they can have more money. That's not the intent. So there's no question that your idea of talking with someone like Susquehanna Transit, for example, to see if they would like to convert their bus fleet to natural gas would be an excellent idea. And if we could get the state legislature to propose a mechanism to help provide capital so that someone like Susquehanna Transit could do that with their bus fleet. I don't know how many buses they have, but they have a lot. That would be something as a county commissioner, I would try to facilitate that activity. And there would be one way we would benefit directly. And we wouldn't have to smell the fumes from all the buses.
First of all, I consider all four of you gentlemen to be my friends. So, Richard, Jeff, Pete, and Joel, I want to first of all thank you all for running a campaign that is courteous, professional, and you are all gentlemen. I want to tell you what my question was going to be, but I'm going to change it to a different question. But I want you to think about the first question while you're answering the real question, okay? My question was going to be, everybody in the county, every voter, is allowed to vote for two individuals when they vote for county commissioner. And I thought it would be a good question to ask each of you, well, obviously you're going to be voting for yourself. And I kind of like to think, so who would be the second person that you would individually vote for? But instead of putting you on the spot like that, please keep that question in mind. But the question then would be, what would the number one trait or the number one characteristic be of the individual that you plan on casting your second vote for? Is that a fair question? Okay. If you want to answer the first one, go ahead.
No, I don't mind shying. I'm not going to shy away from your question. Absolutely, I'm going to vote for Mr. Smells. You know, I'm looking to be a majority member in the commissioner's office. And, but to answer the second part of your question, I want someone who is going to work as hard and be as dedicated as I'm going to be. And I see that in Pete, not that I don't see it in the other ones, but Pete and I have been doing a number of things together. He thinks of things that I don't, I think of things that he doesn't, and I think we're going to have a great working relationship. Now, I admire everyone who comes out for any type of public office. This is the least thing that I enjoy standing up here. Give me an issue, get me working on something. I really don't like being here in these spotlights. They're a little blinding, but you know, I pride myself on common sense. I have to tell you this. The perfect example I use, I'm a hunter. Now, I enjoy hunting more than the killing anymore, but I want to tell you what. How many times have you heard, over the last couple of years, people complaining there are no deer? My common sense answer, quit shooting them. Give them a break, you know. And that's why I enjoy hunting. I take the camera more than a gun anymore. But it's what you enjoy, and I enjoy serving people. And I want the opportunity to do that, and I'm going to give you 100%. And whoever it is that, if I'm elected, I get a chance to work with, I expect the same from them. Dedication, hard work, and commitment. And that's what I'm looking for.
I thought you wanted us all to be gentlemen. Your question presupposes that I would take the opportunity to cast both votes.
That's an honest answer.
It's probably political death, but it's an honest answer. I don't know. I mean, I know all three of these guys. I know Joel better than some of the others, but over the last year we've had a number of conversations at various places. And I think the most important thing I would be looking for in my two colleagues is a willingness to debate and ruthlessly debate everything that comes before us. And that's not to say that we have to fall out, but I think we do need to hammer out policy on an anvil. And unless I have colleagues who are prepared to say, you are absolutely full of it, there isn't any way we can do that. And unless we can thrash out those kinds of issues, I think we shortchange the voter. We all sit around and say, yeah, well, let's do that because we can agree on it. At the end of the day, there has to be some kind of a consensus between the three commissioners, because that's the only way to work forward. But I want colleagues who will debate everything with me until we can really thrash out an answer that's solid and in the best interest of the county.
I think I'm going to do a write-in vote for Jeff Schlesinger. Oh, no. Oh, that's your brother. Wrong one.
Go first, your brother.
There's no question that I support Jeff Slinger for county commissioner as well. And in addition to that, though, there are three people that are going to sit in those offices. So I want to make that point. And it's important to me that all three of those individuals be people who can, I'm going to steal a little Richard's thought, who can not viciously, who can honestly and I won't say manly, I guess, debate the issues that need to be resolved and be willing to go through that endurance as somewhat like friends would, endure that debate and trust one another. The word to me, you asked for a word, I'm going to use the word trust. I want people I can trust in office, trust to work with, trust who would we can share information with. I can go to the meeting and share it back. They can go to the meeting and share it back to me. And be nosy. Ask questions. Not just of each other, but be nosy and ask questions of the people in the county offices. And then come together, hash out the issues in a vigorous way, as Richard alluded to, and be willing to trust one another. And I believe that that's the key that I would look for in the co-commissioners. And there are going to be three of them, but I alluded to the one that I support in addition. And you don't know who the third one would be if I had a third vote. But thank you.
I just want to know how Pete and Jeff are going to deal with it if their colleague beats them out for the third spot. They voted for him. Anyways, what's important to me is that they come to the job with an open-mindedness to all the issues that we deal with. The beauty of being the last one to go is you get to hear everyone else's answers, and they all gave some great answers. Trust is absolutely needs to be there. I've been in situations throughout my political career where I've trusted people very much, and others I didn't. And when you don't, it's not a fun time. It's important that you can trust them to pull their weight, because I've talked numerous times, and I think Pete has pointed out as well, that it takes 3 commissioners. We all can't be as deeply involved in every issue as one of the others. So one of us has to take lead on each kind of issue. And you have to be able to trust the person that took the lead on that they're going to get involved, be able to educate you because you're busy on the issues that you deal with, and then be able to debate it, as Richard said. That's why there are 3 people. There is no king of the county. There are 3 of us, and we need to trust each other and be able to come to consensus on how this government is best for the people. Thanks.
Okay. 6 questions over here.
I would like to thank you for filling out the questionnaires. I'm sitting here going over it, and I actually have a question for Joel Long as to why he did not fill out this year's questionnaire. I would be interested in his answers, but I also understand there's a lot of questions on here that, as commissioners, you have no control over. But I think there's some questions on here that give good indication as to your outlook on life and how you would want things to be. I'd like to just focus in on one, which was number 10. It says, prohibit state grants for art that is obscene, pornographic, or anti-religious, attract religion. And ask Joel also if he's still undecided on that. I know Mr. Morris says he's undecided because of who would define it. Well, I think the dictionary has already defined pretty well obscene and pornographic, or most people in this room probably have a pretty good understanding of those terms. And I'd like to know if Jeff Snyder, why you would oppose that legislation.
My first degree was in Latin. You forgive me for a Latin tag, which is de gustibus non disputandum, which basically says you cannot have a discussion about taste. And I think one justice of the Supreme Court said, yeah, pornography, we know pornography when we see it. I think there really are some intractable issues there about what is and is not to be condemned on grounds of taste. There are even deeper philosophical questions about what is to be condemned because it's anti-religious, because I think there are constitutional issues with that. So there are issues of taste on the first 2. There are constitutional issues on the third. I think it's probably one of those questions on which at the end of the day we're going to have to agree to differ.
As you already observed yourself, these are issues that are not likely to be issues at the county level. They're generally state or federal issues. But with that said, I personally have to be true to myself and to my faith in this regard. And I don't know exactly why the government, in any sense, would need to contribute funds towards those things that even borderline on when it comes to deciding what is offensive and what's obscene, what's pornographic or anti-religious. There are those things that some people can look at and say there's no question about that. There are other things that are borderline. So the difficult thing is how do you judge that? And who's the judge? I'm the judge of what I think is pornographic, and all of you in this room would judge that what you think is offensive or pornographic. But I don't know if the government is a good judge of that. My point is, don't go there. When you're contributing funds towards the development of arts, there's got to be a neutral place where you can go that you know doesn't tread into that territory. We can develop the arts for our children. We can develop music, and we can develop those things and stand back. It does not prohibit their creativity if they do want to go there. But I'm just saying, when it comes to schooling or the public funds used for arts, in my opinion, you're going to have to keep it pretty high, in my opinion, that you stay away from those borderline areas and you don't have that debate in the first place. But I'm absolutely opposed to public funds contributing towards that type of art in any way, shape, or form. And I don't know how else to say it other than just say it.
Well, thank you for asking me specifically. I appreciate that. First of all, I have filled out this in the past, and I did have every intention of filling it out again. And in fact, have it somewhere partially filled out. These questions are not questions, as we mentioned, that are things that we're going to have power over as county commissioners. But regardless of that, I understand the fact that you want a peek into my soul or my character, whatever it is that you're looking for. All I can say is that the recent county events have kind of taken my mind off of other things and making me forced to deal with the issues of the county. And I apologize that I didn't, and I thank Patrick for following up with me to make sure that I was indeed coming tonight. I appreciate that very much. As far as the specific question on prohibited state grants for art that is obscene, pornographic, who decides that? Who is the czar of what is pornographic? I mean, back in the early 20th century, a woman showing her knee was pornographic. You know, all I know is I know what I have control over and what I teach my children, and the people that I have direct influence over. You know, I try to teach the kids that I coach what's right and wrong through the values that I teach them as a coach. I don't tell them what's right and wrong out in public, but when a kid gets out of his car and he's yelling at his mom, I tell him to take a laugh. He says, why? I said, because we don't disrespect our parents and our coaches here at the field or anywhere. So run. You know, I take my influence in those ways. I don't know that the government should be telling me what's pornographic or obscene or what have you. I don't intend on telling someone else other than my children. You're perfectly within your right to feel the way you do about it, and I respect that. Thank you.
Spent a lot of time struggling over these questions, a lot of time. I graduated in 1978 from Haven University with a BS in education, and believe me, sometimes having a degree in BS has helped, and sometimes it hasn't. But I'm going to go along with what Joel said. I struggle when questions with government. At what point does government go overboard? A lot of times they start with an issue, and it's a common sense issue, and when they get finished with that legislation, it doesn't represent anything where it started. When I was a student at Haven University, the classes I liked the least were the arts. Intro to art. Get down to the room down there, and they'd show you 50 film strips of pictures, and they'd tell you who painted it and the era, and then Monday you'd have a test on it. I could have cared less. It had nothing to do with what I liked. But then some of the art teachers up there had, what do you want to call them, their art displayed of their spouses in nude. Not for me. Not for me. But they call it art. But it has back to the fundamental problem that I have is, when does government go too far in their definitions of anything? How long do you allow the government to continue to tell us and take over our lives? That's why I attend church regularly. That's why we talk to our children. I have a grandchild now, and I want him to be raised properly. The best thing that people can do is to pass on your beliefs to your children. It's mentioned here about social problems. The biggest problem is there's parents, maybe it's the lifestyle they have, they just do not spend enough time with their kids. And we have to, as a society, take care of our kids first and raise them with a Christian background and teach them ethics and morals, and we won't have so many prisons that we have to build. That's how I feel about it.
Well, we speed things up a little bit. We're going to go back to like 1 minute answers. Anyone else have a question? Don't be shy.
My name is Larry LeBoyer from Beach Creek. 38 of the 55 signers of the Constitution were evangelical, Orthodox, fundamentalist Christians. The courts have over and over decided that we are a Christian nation. And our founders and our early statesmen realized that, yes, they were accountable to the people at home, but ultimately, number one, they were accountable to God in all things they did. In lieu of that, I find some of your responses very, very vague and wishy-washy as far as my point of view. My question is to all of you: will you be held accountable to a higher power, and that being the Lord, in all your actions in your duties as commissioners?
We are all held accountable to God for all that we do. Those who are Christians and those who are not will be held accountable. I am a Christian. I was baptized, I believe, as a Lutheran when I was a young kid. Then I was baptized again. It gets into the issues of immersion. And some of you are familiar with the debate over immersion and sprinkling and whatnot. But I was immersed in the Church of Christ and when I met my wife. The way I live my life, Larry, is each day begins with prayer and each day ends with prayer. Each day I would not have gotten through there's so many parts of my life that I have not gotten through without my dependency upon God. So to answer your question, I'll be a praying commissioner. I'll be praying in my office. I'll be praying on my way to work. I'll be praying when I lay my head on the pillow at night, because I depend on the Holy Spirit to guide me and the power of God to get me through my day and help me make all my decisions. And I know that He has taken care of me all along because of that. And I'm not going to apologize to anybody about that. That is my faith. That is what I believe. And I do not believe it prevents me from being an effective, good commissioner. I still will honor the U.S. Constitution, the laws of this land, and do that while retaining my faith. And I would challenge anyone who does not believe that I cannot, because I know I can have done it already. Thank you.
We are all held we're all going to be held accountable someday in front of the Lord. I pray every night for guidance in the things that I do, because of my decisions. Anyone that's arrogant enough to think that they can guide the public or help even conduct just their individual lives without asking the Lord for help is sadly a mistake. So, in short, my answer is yes, I will be accountable to the Lord for my actions as commissioner, and I feel I already am. I even pray for the people I disagree with or have fights for, because I think it's the right thing to do. Thank you.
When I was young, my family attended First Church Christ in Davis, and I was baptized there. We believed there that that was done when you were ready for it to be done, and when I thought I was ready, I was baptized. I've been praying a lot up here on the stage tonight. I pray a lot all day long. But I will tell you one thing. I do feel that I have a lot of religion, a lot of healthy religious beliefs. But there's one line I don't cross, because I think it's only up to God to judge. And I'm not going to judge you or anyone else for your life or the way you live your life. I'm responsible for the people around me to try and help and guide them. And I don't have a problem giving my opinion, but I do not judge people. I'm happy with where I am in my point of life. I pray a lot too. And there's times I need to, and I need that help and that support. And it makes me feel whole, and it makes me feel good.
On the question of accountability, Barry, I think that all elected officers, when they enter upon that office, take an oath of office. If you do not, then they take that oath of office in the presence of a judge and under God. And I think if you do not believe yourself to be bound by that oath, you do not take it. And I think that's what I have to say.
Want to make a statement to that? What's that? Want to make a statement to what was said, right? We just keep it to a specific question. So, okay, I'll make a question.
I think some of the reason the question was asked is in regards to character and see what kind of morals you folks would have. Because a lot of times, once you're done with commissioner, there's other venues of politics that you become involved in. And so this sometimes is a stepping stone. And so we want to know what you're going to be like as you go up in that stepping stone. Should we vote on you here, even because of what may happen later? And I guess I did have another question too, in regards to the gas. Why is the gas being shipped everywhere else and we can't get it in our own county? Industry is about the only ones who have here. I know in Flemington there is zero housing that has gas. And if we're talking about economics, and it's so much cheaper, why would we not have it here for our own citizens before we ship it somewhere else?
Well, to follow up on your statement / question at the start, I understand that, and that's what I mentioned earlier whenever I said you want to peek into my soul or my character, and I understand that. As far as the gas, it's conflicting to me. I mean, on one hand, I have people that say to me, well, private industry, don't mess with them, don't do this, don't make them do this, don't make them do that. The next time somebody's saying to me, well, you ought to make them build out infrastructure in Mill Hall or wherever, it's their money. They decide. Why it's going overseas? Because gas has no allegiance. It has no allegiance to a country. All they care about is this. Oil, gas, what have you. When I hear these statements about we depend too much on foreign oil, no, we depend too much on oil, period, because they don't recognize themselves as being American oil. They're part of OPEC, and they're going to sell it for whatever they can sell it for. It's corporate greed. And the only answer to that is to provide them with an avenue that they're going to make more money here than to ship it overseas.
I'm going to attempt to answer your first question. I'm not sure I heard the question in there, but I don't have any comments. I talked about integrity. I met my wife in 9th grade. We got married after we graduated from college. I made a commitment to her that I don't believe in divorce. We're going to work through things. When I make a commitment, I stick to it. And she's the best thing that ever happened to me. My children. I consider myself to be very ethical, moral, and I'm not going to change. You know, whether I become an elected official, I'm not going to change. The second part of your question about the gas, that's what I'm talking about as far as my earlier comments about being proactive. We've got to work with this industry and take advantage. It's here. So we've got to open those doors. We've got to set the tone, and that's why I think it's so important working with the Economic Partnership to get those services here. It's here. Why can't we use it? We need to work hard to make it happen.
I'm more than happy for you to scrutinise me to the extent that you believe that I am trustworthy and worthy to discharge the responsibilities of a county commissioner. I don't know by 2015 what I will have left to look forward to. I would say to you only this: judge not that you be not judged. For by the judgment you render shall you be judged, and the portion you mete out shall be the portion you receive. As far as the gas issue goes, frankly, I do not understand the economics of this industry. They seem to be totally counterintuitive. The price of gas goes down, therefore you dig more out. And I think we are generating gas in this country before we have really figured out what it is we want to do with it. So let's, in the meantime, sell it to people who have figured out what to do with it, and we'll use that money to help us answer that question.
If one truly be in Christ, as I proclaim to be, it needs to permeate your entire life. Your life, in your work, in your home, everywhere you go. And that's my desire for myself, and I do that through prayer, that I can achieve that. And I don't know if that answers your question or not, but there's traps out there all the time for people. You got to be aware of that. You need to know how to avoid them. And by my faith, it helps me to do that. As far as the gas, they're producing a product, and I agree with Richard to a degree. There's a lot that I think a lot of us don't understand about the gas industry, and I can't stand here and pretend to understand that part of it. But if you're producing something and trying to produce more of it, you need to have a market for it. And my speculation is that part of it is being sold. I don't like the idea of the stocks being sold to foreign countries. I want the ownership to be retained in America. But the gas itself is being sold as an outlet, as a market outlet to unload some of the gas, and so we can make room for more. And yes, any government agency needs to work hard to develop infrastructure to utilize gas in their neighborhoods. And as I mentioned earlier, I use Susquehanna Transit's bus fleet as something that we should be working on. So We do need to find a market to use it here.
Do you think that there is a chance within the next 100 years that a Hindu, Muslim, or Hebrew will be elected to the office of Clinton County Commissioner? And if so, why? And if not, why?
Sometimes it's not so lucky to be first. Mr. Russell, I would have no idea. Anything's possible in the next 100 years. I would hope that no matter what the person is, that they were running for the office because they wanted to do a great job for Clinton County, and if that person got elected, then it was because the constituents thought that they would do a great job for the county. That's about the best way that I can answer that question.
I don't know the answer to that question, do you know? If you were to ask me, do you think that in the next 100 years there's a possibility that a Clinton County Commissioner might have been born overseas, I would heartily say yes.
Yes, we are equal opportunity employers. Hey, Lisa, it's a pleasure to have Richard amongst us and serving in Clinton County. He does well in his efforts. I don't know. I'm going to follow suit with the other two individuals. How can we ever begin to speculate what the climate, the cultural climate of Clinton County would be 100 years from now? I would like to think that just as I proclaim to be in Christ, that I can still serve effectively as a county commissioner, and I see that as a positive. Okay, but with that being said, I believe that if one can serve in their function, regardless of their faith, as long as it's a positive faith, I guess they're all positive, I suppose. So be it. If in this country that's allowed. But I have no idea, Jim, if that could ever happen in Clinton County.
You do come up with some of the most off-the-wall questions sometimes. I have no idea, as the other candidates have stated. Did 100 years ago everybody have any idea that we'd be able to talk over a computer to somebody in Africa and see their face and have a face-to-face conversation with them? I have no idea what to expect 100 years from now. My job is to try to plan for the next 20 years for the county. Work on making this a better place no matter what religion someone is, and make it a good place for us to raise children and make a living. Thanks.
Question number 10. Is there, before we give this gentleman a second question, is there anyone else that has not asked a question that would like to ask a question?
If you build it, they will come. What can the county commissioners do to tear down the barriers that prohibit gas companies from running pipes into people's basements and getting additional customers? What can we do? What can county commissioners do to rezone land, to get commercial land, to get residential land so that the county can grow from our current 39,000? What would you do?
I'm making a big deal out of this standing up now. It gives me more time to think. That's more than a 1 minute question, because I think you probably realise, but I have to? Okay. But I go back to my earlier question. I think one of the first obligations that we have as elected officers is really to understand what this industry is about. We are hosts to it. They are so far ahead of us because they know what they're doing and we're still trying to find out. So our first obligation is really to understand what this industry is about, to understand what the possibilities are. I mean, there's a long distance from the chap who's drilling it out to the guy who's delivering it to somebody's furnace. We need to understand what that process is. We need to understand what levers we have to pull to be able to foster a greater use of gas in the county. And that kind of is a learning process. We have to do it quickly because otherwise we may well lose the opportunity. I don't immediately know the answer to your question. All I know is that there is a process we have to go through in order to be competent to answer that question. And once we know what we have to do, then we use our other influence as county commissioners, as advocates for the county, to try and put those infrastructures in place. And I think you're right, after that, once we have done all of that, then if you build it, they will come.
I believe, Kurt, many people struggle with that question, and I think that's why we have a Marcellus Gas Task Force that has formed in our county, that was formed by the county commissioners, which brings together the entities of private enterprise, the gas companies, environmental folks, to come and they meet monthly or every other month to discuss those very questions that you're talking about. Along with that, one of the issues is zoning. You mentioned zoning, and I believe that there was a movement in Pennsylvania starting in the southeastern counties to try to get counties to be more equal in their zoning, even to the point of having county-wide zoning. I think there is a slight potential there, and perhaps through our county planning office, is to get some cohesion between the adjacent municipalities in the area of zoning regulations. I'm not suggesting that the townships and municipalities give up their autonomy, because they want to retain their autonomy. But there ought to be a way that through the economic partnership, there's an area where when the gas companies come here, they have one-stop shopping, so they can see what is and isn't, what regulations are consistent from township to township. These are all things that unfortunately are still in the development stages. I think we're maybe a year behind. We got to, as Richard said, on the fast track towards pulling these things together. I think the Marcellus Gas Task Force is the mechanism that can make that happen quickest, but we need to maybe re-engineer that a little bit so that it addresses your questions through that group of people. And if you're not familiar with it, I'll fill you in. Bob, you may be. If not, see me and I'll tell you more about it. I think most of the candidates here are familiar with it as well.
Well, you're right. If you build it, they will come. I think that Pete hit the nail on the head as far as the task force, because I think that's where it all starts. Again, it's private industry. So why aren't they already doing it? You want to find out what the hurdles are and try to overcome them. And I think the gas task force is where you start with that. My guess would be that they're not doing it because it's not worth the investment to them. Because we all know private industry, if they're going to make money from it, they'll build it out and do it. So how do you change that? Well, the only way that I see that you change that is by trying to find incentives to help them to build out the infrastructure. That's all well and good, but where do the incentives come? They come from the government. Where does the government's money come from? Taxes. So if, we find that that's what they need, then we need to make decisions or encourage our legislators to make decisions to put those incentives in place, if that's what's in the best interest of the people in our county. As far as zoning, zoning is handled by the municipalities. There are a few municipalities the county does the zoning for. But we can act as a leader and try to guide them and work with them towards a common goal. One of the biggest struggles that Pennsylvania has is that a lot of the power is in the municipalities' hands, which in Clinton County we have 37,000 people and we have 29 municipalities. So you've got all these little items that have their own power that the county doesn't have power, but we can try to guide them and head towards a common goal.
I'd say the first thing you do is don't make any assumptions. How many people in the county want natural gas services? Send a questionnaire out to every household. Get those questionnaires back. Find out how many of them want it. Then you communicate that with your municipalities. How many of you, here are the numbers. There's a need here. Then you go to the gas company. And before you get to the gas companies, you've already worked on communication with them, communication. This is what our county wants. Come up with a plan, and you get people working towards that plan. That's how things happen. It's not two or three people that get something done. It's the masses of people. It's the need, and then you address that need. But you prove to the industry the need is here. And how do you do that? You find out. So you take it one step at a time, you develop a plan, and then you communicate with all the players, and then you work for a common goal. And if the need's there, it'll happen. But you've got to communicate, and you've got to work with people to make it happen.
Okay, we've had 10 questions. Great questions from the audience. Time is escaping us tonight. So the next phase of the forum is going to be closing remarks. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for closing remarks. And we're going to go in the reverse order of the way they selected. And so that will be Mr. Joel Long, Mr. Pete Snell, Mr. Richard Morris, and then Mr. Jeff Snyder.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me tonight. I really enjoyed this. Honestly, in listening to what my opponents have said, we're not that far apart on what we believe and what we want to try to accomplish for our county. So I look forward to whoever ends up being the 3 county commissioners working together for the betterment of the county. I've worked for the last 4 years for you as county commissioner. I've brought change as I promised in my first campaign. We've changed how the county does business. We have a new accounting system that we can better track our budget and our finances, and you can't make good decisions if you can't track it and understand what you're spending and where it's going to. I've had more information this final year of my first term than I had in any of the 3 years that we've done budget. That's great help. I've worked to bring new technologies to the county. The cellular tower in Renovo is one of my proudest things that we've accomplished. That's going to lead to more things. We have some very exciting technology things on the table, bringing 4G service to Clinton County before our surrounding areas come to it. We're working on deals to do that. The Clinton County Community Center, a project that was near and dear to Bud Yost' heart, we finally completed this past year, and it's a wonderful asset to our community. If you haven't been there, please go there, check it out. It is fantastic, and it's a wonderful resource for seniors and for our Head Start program and anyone else in the community who wants to use it. My name is Joel Long. I have 3 children and a wife. My children, Christopher 12, Kelly's 9, and Sarah's 2. And I've done this job for 14 years being in public service because I want them to have a good place to grow up in, and I want them to be able to stay here when they make good decisions when they're going to live. Thank you.
And in the opening remarks, I told you who I was, and now I wanted to just elaborate that I feel very prepared and excited about becoming one of your next county commissioners. I too am looking forward to working with two colleagues that I know will be, I'm assuming the voters will choose two good folks that we can work together to accomplish a lot for this county. As we've already identified, you've identified, we have numerous challenges, and those challenges are opportunities. I think what you need to bring into the county office is maturity, accountability. You need to bring integrity into the county courthouse and the county offices. I've always tried to conduct myself in that manner. I have depended upon my values and my faith in doing so. That's just how I've been able to accomplish what I have. I believe in the Clinton County community. I know the Clinton County community. I've worked in all four corners of this county. I know the county well. I know its people. I know its needs. It's a great opportunity, and I feel almost compelled. The word was mentioned, it's not a job, it's a calling. Well, when you're in this level of life, as I have done even in my previous employment, my volunteer efforts, full commitment, and I see this more as a calling. I see it as a calling. Yes, you do live it 24/7. It's with you all the time. And this is what I believe I can bring into the county commissioner's office. And the experience that I have, my knowledge of the county, I believe is unmatched. So, Pete Smeltz is my name. I live in Manhattan, and my wife is Deb. My children are Sarah and Robbie. And I'm looking forward to being one of your next county commissioners, along with Jeff Snyder.
Well, don't I feel special? Thank you for your hospitality and for listening so patiently as I on board through my answers. I spent 6 years debating various issues with two boards of commissioners. That was a piece of cake. In the process of doing that, I had the opportunity to work on a couple of projects of which I was particularly proud. One was on behalf of the Keystone Central School District, I chaired a local tax study commission. At the time, they were considering whether there were alternatives to property tax by increasing either an earned income tax or a personal income tax, that kind of nosedive, but never mind. And I also had the opportunity to work on the reassessment project on behalf of the county. That was something that was dear to my heart as a realtor. I understand the impact of property taxes on people who live here and on people who are coming here. I am nobody's opponent. There is a vacant seat on the Board of Commissioners. I am a long-time personnel planner. You need to know somebody who is doing the job, but who's going to do it next. I have spent 6 years as an apprentice, and I believe that I can fill that job to your best interests and to the best of my abilities. Thank you for your time and attention.
Sure, there's one thing I don't like talking about myself, but I'm going to share this with you. Mr. Ronkel's question about what's going to happen in 100 years. I came from a large family. I have 6 siblings, and we were low income. And 45 years ago, I wore, even though they were clean, blue jeans to school that had holes in them. How would I have ever guessed the day you paid for them that way? Unbelievable. I'm very proud of my accomplishments. I have worked hard to achieve what I have achieved in my life. One of the reasons I got on the school board, I bought my business when I was 21 years old. Graduated from college, like a joy to be a BS in education, and I wanted to use that. So I wanted to see, even though there's 9 members on the school board, if one person could make a difference. I feel that I have contributed to that. I'm dedicated, and I work very hard to achieve what I think is best for, in this case, county business. I don't know what else to tell you. This is something I want very much. I want the opportunity to serve. Give me the issues. Give me the opportunity. I was talking to John Lopez a couple of weeks ago, and he said, Jeff, I think the county made a mistake when they didn't go to the home rule. And I said, okay, John, I want to ask you something. Pete and I have already said that we're going to be full-time commissioners. How about giving us a chance? Let's have this conversation if Pete and I get elected a year from now. And then you tell me whether you think that home rule was the best, or if you have 3 individuals working together. 20 years on the school district. School board members come up every other 2 years for re-election. I've worked with a lot of people. I have no problem working with anyone. And I said, John Lopez, you give us a year. And if you still feel that way, then you read an article to that effect. If we've changed your mind, then you write an article in your record, and you let the people know how you feel then. Give us a chance. I'm Jeff Snyder. Appreciate your support.
On behalf of the Christian Coalition, I want to thank all 4 candidates for their attendance, and we enjoyed hearing from each one of you. We wish you well. Please remember that you are able to vote for 2 county commissioner candidates. There will be 3 spots filled, but you can vote for 2. I want to thank the leadership of Big Woods Bible Church for opening up their facility to us tonight. If you would like to learn more about the Christian Coalition, you can look at the back of your survey, and there's some contact information, a telephone number, email. We're on Facebook now, and we will be posting some more information online. We will be emailing these surveys out to our membership as well, and also providing some summary information to the press in general. We will also have, I hope, front page coverage at the Blockhaven Express. I'll talk with the editor about that, but the Express always does a great job. Any other media outlets here? We thank you. Okay. We thank you for coming. You're with which media? Excellent. Great, thank you. Any other media?
No, I have a question. What is the absentee ballot deadline?
November 1st.
November 4th.
I'm here November 1st, November 4th.
It's the Friday before the election if you're,
Okay.
you have that Friday before the election.
I think it's 4th.
First is to apply for
Okay. First to apply, 4th.
Thank you very much. I just thought
Yes.
that was good information.
Question, great question. Okay, I would be happy to talk with any of you afterwards. Hope Mitchell, their Secretary-Treasurer, if you would like to learn more about the Christian Coalition. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, November 22nd at the Beach Creek Wesleyan Church. I'm scanning my notes to see if I had missed anything. I believe that's everything. Should we end in a word of prayer? God, we thank you for this opportunity that we could hear from each one of these gentlemen. We pray that you would work mightily in their lives, O God, that your hand would be upon them, that they would continue to look to you in all that they do. We pray, God, that as the media coverage goes out, that it will be fair, it will be balanced, that the people of Clinton County will get to know these candidates even better. Lord, if there be any other, I believe there's other forums coming up before the election. We pray most of all that a clear message would be articulated by each one of these candidates. And God, that you would bless Clinton County and that the people of this county would be benefited and blessed, and that you would work on our behalf, Lord, in Clinton County. We give you the honor and the glory and the praise this evening in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you very much for coming.